My name is John Frank, and I'm currently the Vice President of the Board of Directors for the Friends of Mackenzie, Friends of Mackenzie Environmental Center Incorporated. More and more, we have children who are growing up without any education about the outdoors, without any education about the animals that are displayed at the Mackenzie Center, and what the relationship is between humans and other species on this planet. And as those children grow up and become parents, we have even fewer family mentors who are able to teach our children about the outdoors. And that's what the Mackenzie Center is all about. The Mackenzie Center is a place where children of any age can come and learn about the outdoor subjects, something that perhaps they didn't have an opportunity to do when they were growing up in a more urbanized setting. The Mackenzie Center is located about 25 miles north of Madison. It is just north and east of the village of Poynette. It's in Columbia County, but it's really a regional facility that services Madison, it services all of the communities in Dane County, and it also services the communities of Columbia County and all over southern Wisconsin. In a given year, we probably have 250 different schools or school districts represented by visitors to the Mackenzie Center, and they come from all over southern Wisconsin and all over and even northern Illinois. Because so many people do live in an urban setting, more and more they have to come to a place like the Mackenzie Center in order to learn about animal things that you can't really get even in a modern zoo as well as you can by observing the animals in the wild. I think we want them to learn about the animals themselves and how they are important to our own existence. How do we interrelate with those animals? And how do the animals interrelate with one another? Whenever the wolves howl, it maybe sends a tingle down our spine, but can you imagine if you were a white-tailed deer and hearing that wolf howl? I suspect that the white-tailed deer has a bigger tingling down its spine than we have down ours when we hear that howl. As a human, it's hard not to take an animal, and especially when you observe it, when you look in the animal's eyes and the animal looks back at you and you see a bit more intelligence than you maybe thought was supposed to be there. The current animal display area was really built in about 1984 after, I think it was about 6 years of planning. So that was 34 years ago, and it was, before that, the animals had been kept in smaller cages in a blacktop area not far from the administration building. And that just wasn't adequate for displaying animals. Many of the animals came to the Mackenzie Center as a result of being abandoned, or, for example, a cub bear might come in because its mother was killed on the highway or something like that. And so it was kind of an area back before we had a lot of animal rehabilitation centers in the state. It was an area that was used to not only house abandoned and orphaned animals, but also to display them to the public. And in that sense, it became part of the educational process in and of itself, because it in part explains the relationship between humans and wild animals, and how sometimes we can mess things up, maybe for each other, by not being very careful with the way we treat one another. When we first talked about doing a new project for the animal enclosures at the Mackenzie Center, I thought, well, why are we doing this again? We just did that, didn't we? And then I started counting the years, and it went back, and I said, well, that was 30 plus years ago that we did that. And in the meantime, the reason for doing it at this point is that some of the wooden structures that we have in the animal enclosure area are now 34, 35 years old, and they need some replacement. We're hoping to replace them with concrete buildings. Concrete buildings are used in part for shelter for the animals, but also they're used for the purpose of providing the animals with care, providing the animals with veterinary care when they need it. We also found that some of the standards for housing animals in an enclosure, but in a wild kind of setting, had changed. The wolves and the coyotes, for example, probably need more space than we had been providing them. Some of the fencing needs to be replaced and remodeled so that the animals can remain in a safe situation and yet be observed by humans who can also be in a safe situation while they observe them. We're going to start with phase one of the project. Phase one would be a replacement and remodeling of the quarters for the canines, specifically the wolves and the coyotes. One of the things we're adding to the wolf and coyote pens are shift pens, we call them. Shift pens are places, smaller areas that the animal can go into when you need to do some maintenance or some repairs or other work in the larger pen. And the wolves are smart enough to, they need to be kind of lured. They don't just go where you want them to go. They need to be lured in the smaller pen, and we need a system of gates then so that we can shut the gate and have the wolf in a smaller pen while we do some maintenance in the larger pen. So that's one aspect of the enclosures that is going to be different and certainly more beneficial. The project is going to be a fairly costly one. Things always seem to cost more every time you want to redo them and do some remodeling. So initially, phase one, we're looking at roughly $350,000, and we've started fundraising for that. We've received lots of support from local individuals, businesses, and local foundations. We have, and we hope to be able to raise enough money, perhaps even to start groundbreaking in 2018, 40 years after the Friends were first started. We need kind of a broad-based public support for this, and I think we have it already. We just have to let people know how important it is to continue the education of our youth about the outdoors for another generation.